is Dr. Lennon with an online lecture about functional groups. As I mentioned, Chapter 3 can be a little bit dry. You really don't need me in lecture to go over these functional groups. You really just need to make some flashcards. So I'm going to use this online lecture to point out some bits and pieces that you need to know about functional groups. Listen to it as many times as you would like. Speed me up. Put me at 1.5 speed if you'd like to. Slow me down. Whatever makes you happy. So functional groups are chemical groups that are added onto the carbon skeleton that give the molecule its special characteristics, allow it to behave in the cell and do the things for the cell that are necessary for life. We all probably recognize this animal. This is the lion. On the left we have the male lion, on the right we have the female lion. If you look at the hormones, testosterone and estradiol, or estrogen, you can see that the structure of the molecules are very, very similar. What we see are these carbon rings. Everywhere that the black lines meet represents a carbon. So if you look at the ring structures of the molecules, they're very, very similar, if not identical. That's the carbon skeleton, or the carbon backbone, of these molecules. What makes them different are the functional groups that are added on to the backbone. I've marked these functional groups. You can see this one. This is a CH3 group. We'll learn that that's a methyl group. Here's an OH group, a hydroxyl group. There's another hydroxyl, another methyl, another hydroxyl. If you look at the molecules marked in color, the pink, the green, and the blue, are the groups that are different between testosterone and estrogen. And we know that there's a very big difference between how these molecules act and the results of having them in your body. Right? You wouldn't want to switch one for the other. So the properties of organic molecules depend on not only the carbon skeleton, how long it is, whether it's branched, whether there are double bonds, if it's in a ring or straight, as we talked about in class, but also the functional groups, the chemical groups that are attached to that carbon skeleton. Functional groups are just chemical groups. They're parts of organic molecules that are most commonly involved in chemical reactions. The number and arrangement of these functional groups give each molecule its unique properties. So which functional groups are on that molecule, how they're arranged, how many there are, that's what gives us the difference between molecules like testosterone and estrogen. These are the 7 most important functional groups. One more than what is presented in the book. What you need to know about these functional groups, you need to be able to recognize them. If I show you the functional group, you should be able to name it. Make yourself some flashcards. You also need to know a couple of characteristics about each, and I'm going to point those out to you in this online lecture. So the 7 that you need to know are the hydroxyl group, the carbonyl group, the carboxyl group, the amino group, the sulfhydryl group, which I believe is the one that is not in the textbook, unless they've changed that recently. But it's a very important group. The phosphate group and the methyl group. The methyl group is a CH3. You've seen this multiple times already. The methyl group is nonpolar. It's particularly important in DNA and in steroids. So we saw that methyl group on our estrogen and testosterone. It's also important in DNA, which we'll either learn about very late this semester or you'll learn about in the second half of biology. You can either represent it as a dash and a CH3, or in the bottom picture, a dash with a carbon and 3 hydrogens attached to it. The dash that you see is showing you that it's attached to something else. So it's where the carbon, in this case, is attached to the carbon skeleton of the molecule. The second group is the hydroxyl group. The hydroxyl group is polar. The hydroxyl group is also called the OH group, and we talked about that in lecture when we talked about pH. We saw a hydroxyl group on molecules previously as well. The hydroxyl group is common in alcohols. The third group is the carbonyl group. The carbonyl group is also polar. Now I'm mentioning whether these are polar or non-polar, but it's expected that you know from that how they will behave in water or with other molecules. The carbonyl group is commonly found in simple sugars. The way we think of the carbonyl group is that it's a carbon double bonded to an oxygen and then something else. This is the carboxyl group, also shown as a COOH. It's a polar group and it's acidic. It's commonly found in fatty acids and amino acids. As shown on the little diagram at the bottom of the slide, it's a carbon double bonded to an oxygen, single bonded to another oxygen that's bonded to a hydrogen. It's an acidic group because that hydrogen can be donated to the solution that the molecule goes into, making that solution more acidic. This is the phosphate group. We'll spend quite a bit of time with this. We'll see it in DNA, in our sugar phosphate backbone, and we'll see it in lipids in cell membranes. It's a polar group, and it also is acidic. If you look at it, there's 4 oxygens and a phosphorus. Where the oxygens have a negative, that's where a hydrogen would have been bonded. So in this example of the phosphate group, the hydrogens have already been donated from the phosphate group to the solution. In cells, phosphate groups have already done that in most cases. So you'll see those 2 oxygens are negatively charged. This is the amino group. It's polar and it's basic, meaning it takes hydrogens or hydrogen ions from the solution. In its native conformation, which means in the form that you would find it in cells, it's already taken those hydrogen ions. It's an important part of amino acids, and we often see it noted as an NH2. It's a nitrogen bonded to 2 hydrogens. It's very, very important in amino acids, hence amino group. This is the sulfhydryl group. It's a polar group. It's a sulfur and a hydrogen. It's very important in protein structure. We'll talk about it when we look at proteins and the formation of proteins in our cells, the folding of proteins and the stabilization of those folds in our proteins. Sulfhydryl groups are incredibly important in keeping our proteins folded properly. If they're not folded properly, they don't function. So I showed you the example of estrogen and testosterone. Male and female sex hormones differ very, very slightly, only in their functional groups. But those differences have major impacts. We would not switch them. Those differences cause varied molecular actions and very different outcomes. There are our lions, testosterone and estradiol, results in our male and our female, in lions as well as in humans. So those are our functional groups. Make some flashcards, learn about functional groups, test each other in the hallways, on campus. Just know how to recognize them and a few key important pieces about them.